A rich woman, after inheriting her father's company, decided to disguise herself as a cleaner to evaluate the employees. She was shocked to hear the manager reveal what he did with her daughter. Sitting in the living room of her vast mansion, she contemplated old family photos spread across the table. The image of her father, Bernardo, smiling at a birthday party seemed to shine more intensely. Julia felt a deep sadness as she recalled his sudden death. She sighed, trying to hold back the tears that kept falling. How am I going to run the company now? The responsibility now weighed heavily on her shoulders. Ms. Julia, the lawyer has arrived for the reading of the will, announced Lavinia, the family's loyal employee, in a soft and respectful tone. Thank you, Lavinia. Please ask him to come in, Julia replied, struggling to keep her voice steady despite the pain. The lawyer, a middle-aged man with a serious expression, entered the room and greeted Julia with a slight nod. He sat across from her, opened his leather briefcase, and began reading Bernardo's will. Julia paid attention to every word, her heart racing with each sentence that revealed the magnitude of the inheritance she had received. I would like to leave the company to my daughter Julia. I have full confidence in her ability to lead and continue the legacy that I built with so much effort, read the lawyer, lifting his gaze to meet Julia's tear-filled eyes. He always believed in me, even when I doubted myself, murmured Julia, wiping her tears with a silk handkerchief. The responsibility felt overwhelming, but the trust her father placed in her gave her some assurance. After the reading of the will, Julia was left alone in the room, reflecting on what she had just heard. The company was immense, with hundreds of employees and international operations. She had always lived in luxury, without worrying about the details of the business. I need to understand the company's dynamics better to know whom I can trust, thought Julia, feeling the need to act quickly to honor her father's legacy. Lavinia, please bring me a coffee. I have a lot to ponder, requested Julia, getting up to look out the window at the vastness of the property that was now hers. While drinking her coffee and reflecting on her options, she knew she couldn't blindly trust anyone. With her father's sudden death, the company was vulnerable, and any mistake could be fatal. Maybe if I could observe the company unnoticed, I would understand better who the people working there are, thought Julia. Lavinia, could you come here for a moment, please? Asked Julia, calling the longtime employee who had always been more than just a worker. She was a confidant and family friend. Yes, Ms. Julia, how can I help? Responded Lavinia, entering the room with a curious look. I have a rather crazy idea and I need your help to make it happen, said Julia, looking directly at Lavinia, hoping to see understanding in her old friend's eyes. Of course, ma'am, what are you planning? Asked Lavinia, ready to listen. I want to pretend to be a cleaner at the company. I need to know how things really work there, without anyone knowing who I am, so I can find out whom I can trust, explained Julia, feeling vulnerable as she revealed her plan. Lavinia was silent for a moment, processing the idea. Then, a smile appeared on her face. I think it's an excellent idea. Knowing you, I know you will succeed. I can help you with the disguise and give you some advice, said Lavinia, full of enthusiasm and confidence. That night, Julia and Lavinia spent hours planning the details. Lavinia taught Julia how to use cleaning products and how to behave like a real cleaner. They laughed together as Julia tried to learn how to handle the broom and bucket skillfully. Remember not to make direct eye contact and try to stay as invisible as possible, advised Lavinia, demonstrating how a cleaner should act. Julia nodded, absorbing every detail. She knew that the decision to pose as a cleaner wouldn't be easy, but her determination to honor her father's legacy was stronger than ever. The next morning, Julia put on the simple uniform that Lavinia had prepared and looked at herself in the mirror. Will this really work? thought Julia, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. "You're ready, Ms. Julia." "It will be fine," said Lavinia, holding her hands and looking at her confidently. Lavinia had worked as a cleaner at the company for many years and was highly respected. When Julia decided to pose as a cleaner, it was Lavinia who recommended her for the job. Thanks to the trust Lavinia had earned over the years, her recommendation was accepted without question. "I have a trustworthy person who can help. She needs the job and is very discreet," said Lavinia to the HR manager, ensuring that Julia would be perfect for the position. "If you recommend her, Lavinia, I'm sure she will be a good addition to the team," responded the HR employee, accepting the recommendation. The next day, Julia entered the company through the back door, where the cleaning staff usually passed. The uniform made her look like a completely different person. No one would recognize her as the new owner of the company. She took a deep breath and began her journey, determined to discover whom she could trust. On her first day as a cleaner, Julia approached a cleaning colleague and asked in a calm, unassuming voice, "Good morning, I'm the new cleaner. Where can I start?" "You can start by cleaning the main hallway and then the meeting room. They make a lot of mess there," replied the colleague, not paying much attention to Julia as she continued her work. Julia observed the employees around her and noticed how some were kind and respectful to the cleaning staff, while others barely acknowledged their presence. She began to understand the interpersonal dynamics within the company better. "It's interesting to see how people really are when they think no one is watching," reflected Julia during a break. Later, in the hallway, Julia encountered Milena. Her heart sank at the sight of her daughter, who didn't recognize her due to the distance and the disguise Julia was wearing, including a mask and a different uniform. Milena, 22 years old, lived alone and had been interning at the company for a year, an opportunity provided by her grandfather Bernardo. Additionally, Milena was studying business administration and was about to graduate. The two only saw each other on weekends, and Julia chose not to tell her daughter about her plan. "Excuse me, have you seen where they put the marketing report?" asked Milena distractedly, without looking. "I think it's in the meeting room, miss," replied Julia, feeling a mix of pride and sadness seeing her daughter so dedicated. Milena thanked her and continued on her way, leaving Julia with a lump in her throat. "She's doing well, but I wish I could talk to her openly," thought Julia, feeling ashamed for keeping the secret. Later, while cleaning the meeting room, Julia overheard a conversation between the company's manager, Nicholas, and another employee, discussing important projects and decisions for the company. Nicholas's tone was condescending and manipulative. Julia discreetly hid behind a door, listening to every word. "We need to take control of these decisions before the new owner of the company realizes what we're doing," said Nicholas, in a tone that made Julia tremble with anger. "He's up to something. I need to keep an eye on him," thought Julia, mentally noting everything she had heard. The decision to pose as a cleaner was already starting to reveal hidden truths. Julia returned home exhausted but determined. The experience of being a cleaner gave her a new perspective on the company and the people who worked there. She knew she still had a lot to discover, but she was willing to continue her disguise until she fully understood who was on her side. "You won't believe what I found out today," said Julia while taking off her uniform and sitting in the kitchen to talk to her friend. "Tell me everything, Ms. Julia." "I'm eager to know," replied Lavinia, serving a cup of tea for the two of them. Julia began to narrate the day's events, detailing her interactions and observations. She felt she was on the right path, discovering the truth about the company. "I'm doing this for you, Dad. I promise I won't fail," thought Julia, determined to protect her father's legacy and the company he founded. The next day, it was Milena's responsibility to arrive early at the office, as she did every day. The sun had barely risen, but she was already there, organizing her desk and reviewing the previous day's reports. Milena, a 22-year-old girl full of dreams and determination, had always wanted to follow in her grandfather Bernardo's footsteps without depending on the family name or fortune. My worth is not just being recognized as the great Bernardo's granddaughter, thought Milena while adjusting her glasses and starting to work. Good morning, Milena. I see you arrived early again, said Raphael, an intern who always admired her dedication. Good morning, Raphael. Yes, there's a lot of work to do, replied Milena with a determined smile. And I don't want to leave anything behind, she added. Raphael always saw her as a source of inspiration. Milena knew she needed more than admiration during the internship. She had several meetings scheduled with different departments. She was organized and took meticulous notes, always seeking to learn more about the company. Her goal was to one day climb the hierarchy on her own merits. If I work hard enough, you'll see what I'm capable of, thought Milena while noting the main points of the meeting. Can you finish on time? Asked Bianca, the demanding supervisor who didn't know about Milena's connection to the company owner. Sure. Leave it to me. I'll finish. Ahead of schedule, replied Milena, full of confidence, although she felt the pressure increasing. She liked challenges and saw each task as an opportunity to stand out. While working, Milena often remembered her grandfather Bernardo's advice. He said that dedication and integrity were the keys to success. I'm doing this for you, Grandpa. I want you to be proud of me, thought Milena. At lunchtime, Milena usually sat alone in the company's cafeteria, observing the other employees. She liked to analyze interactions and understand the company culture better. Milena already knew who the true leaders were and who was just pretending. I have to learn from the best and avoid the fakes, reflected Milena while biting her sandwich. Hello, Milena. Can I sit here? Asked Nicholas, the company manager, who had recently shown a suspicious interest in her. Sure, Nicholas. Sit down, replied Milena, although she felt a bit uncomfortable. Nicholas looked at her in a way that worried her, but she preferred not to think too much about it. How's the internship going? Nicholas asked with a smile that Milena found a bit forced. I'm learning a lot and I like challenges, replied Milena, trying to be diplomatic. She knew she needed to maintain good relationships, but she also knew that Nicholas wasn't someone she could fully trust. After lunch, Milena returned to work with renewed energy. She wanted to finish the reports on time and demonstrate that she was capable of meeting tight deadlines. While typing on the computer, she thought of her mother, Julia. I hope she sees how hard I'm working, reflected Milena, unaware that her mother was closer than she imagined, disguised as a cleaner in the company. At the end of the day, Milena handed the reports to Bianca, feeling a wave of satisfaction. Very good, Milena. Excellent work. Keep it up, and you will have a bright future here, said Bianca with a rare smile of approval. Thank you, Bianca. I'll keep doing my best, replied Milena, knowing that Bianca's recognition meant a lot to her. As she left the office, Milena saw Julia, the cleaner, cleaning the hallways in the distance. Julia was wearing a mask, which prevented Milena from recognizing her. They exchanged a quick glance, and Julia felt a pang in her heart for not being able to hug her daughter and tell her how proud she was. Julia thought, watching her daughter walk out the front door with firm and determined steps. On her way home, Milena reflected on the day. Despite the challenges and pressure, she felt she was making progress. I need to keep going. I know I can achieve my goals, thought Milena as she walked through the busy streets of the city. Upon arriving at her apartment, Milena sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, thinking about how she could improve even more. She mentally reviewed her goals and tasks, looking for ways to perfect herself. Every day is an opportunity to learn and grow, reflected Milena, determined to continue her path with the same dedication her grandfather had taught her. That night, she felt a mix of fatigue and satisfaction. She knew the journey would be long and full of obstacles, but she was ready to face each one of them. I'm doing this for us, Grandpa. Don't let me down, she thought while reviewing the day's reports. It was a quiet night, and Milena was satisfied with the progress she was making at the company. Suddenly, her phone vibrated. It was a new message. She picked up the device and saw that it was from Nicholas. What does he want? Thought Milena, curious and a little anxious. Milena, I wanted to tell you that you're doing an amazing job, Nicholas wrote. Milena felt warmth in her heart as she read the words. This means a lot to me, Grandpa. Your legacy is an inspiration, thought Milena with a smile on her face. Milena had always had great respect for Nicholas, seeing him as a mentor and leader in the company. Shortly after, a new message arrived. You have a natural talent for business and competence. I would like to discuss some ideas with you, Nicholas continued. Milena was surprised. A dinner tomorrow night sounds like a great idea. Nicholas's invitation represented an incredible growth opportunity. I'm flattered, Nicholas. It's an excellent choice. What time and where? Milena asked, trying not to show her anxiety for recognition from someone so important in the company. At 7 p.m., at La Casa restaurant. It's a quiet place and perfect for discussing business, replied Nicholas. Milena accepted the suggested place. That night, they arranged the details. While Milena prepared for bed, Nicholas's words kept running through her mind. He really sees my potential. This will be an opportunity to make a difference, she thought, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety while waiting for the next day's dinner. The next day, Milena worked with renewed enthusiasm. Every task seemed more significant, and she felt that she was finally being recognized for her efforts. During the lunch break, Milena shared with a colleague. Nicholas invited me to dinner. Really? That's amazing, Milena. He really sees great potential in you, said Malu, her colleague, admiring her. Yes, I'm a little nervous, but also very excited. I want to learn as much as possible from him, replied Milena, hiding her anxiety. She knew it was a unique opportunity and was determined not to waste it. Milena arrived at the restaurant dressed in an elegant and discreet outfit. Nicholas was already occupying a reserved table in a quiet corner of the restaurant. When Milena arrived, he stood up with a warm smile to greet her. Milena, you look stunning. It's a pleasure to have you here tonight, said Nicholas, pulling out a chair for her to sit. Thank you, Nicholas. I'm very happy to be here. I can't wait to start, replied Milena, genuinely excited. During dinner, Nicholas praised Milena's work, which motivated her even more. You have an incredible vision for business. Your ideas are innovative and practical. Without a doubt, Bernardo would be very proud of you, said Nicholas while serving the dishes. Hearing this only increases my motivation. I want to honor my grandfather's legacy and make a difference in the company, replied Milena, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. She was enchanted by Nicholas's attention and compliments. During dinner, he began to praise her more personally, mixing professional comments with personal touches. "Milena, an intelligent woman like you is rare to find. And besides, you're beautiful. You're exactly the type of woman any man would like to have by his side," said Nicholas, looking deeply into her eyes. She felt her heart race and blushed with the compliment. "Thank you, Nicholas. I'm flattered by your words," replied Milena, somewhat surprised and at the same time charmed by what she was hearing. "It's true. I've been single for a while and I miss having someone special by my side. Someone who understands how important it is for me to find someone with the same values and goals," shared Nicholas in a softer and more intimate tone. Milena was charmed by his sincerity. "I understand that finding someone who truly understands our ambitions and responsibilities can be challenging," she said, feeling a connection with Nicholas that she didn't expect. "That's why I think you're so special, Milena. You have everything I admire in a woman: intelligence, dedication, and beauty. It's rare to find these qualities all in one person," continued Nicholas, briefly holding Milena's hand. She felt a wave of emotions, and a shy smile appeared on her lips. "Thank you, Nicholas. I never imagined you thought this way about me," she replied, deeply touched by Nicholas's words. At the end of dinner, when the waiter brought the bill and stepped away, Nicholas moved closer to her, looking intensely into her eyes. "Milena, I feel a real connection with you. Can I kiss you?" he asked, leaning in. Milena, enchanted and caught up in the moment, lightly nodded. Nicholas approached and kissed her tenderly. Milena felt her heart beat faster, responding to the kiss with a mix of emotions she had never experienced before. They exchanged caresses and got lost in the moment, feeling closer than ever. "It was a wonderful night, Milena. Can we repeat this soon? We have a lot to talk about and plan," said Nicholas with a warm smile. "I agree, Nicholas. Thank you for tonight," replied Milena, with gratitude and enthusiasm. She felt touched by Nicholas's words and closeness, experiencing a sense of being special and valued. As she walked home, Milena felt like she was floating on clouds. "He really trusts me. Maybe there's something more between us," she thought, feeling more determined than ever. However, Milena's innocence prevented her from perceiving Nicholas's true intentions. The next day, Julia advanced in her role disguised as a cleaner at the company, still adapting to the new function. The simple uniform and mask completely transformed her appearance. While cleaning the corridors, she attentively observed the employees' behavior. "I need to understand who these people really are," thought Julia as she worked. Upon reaching the meeting room, she encountered Nicholas, the manager, arguing with an assistant. Julia started cleaning discreetly but didn't stop paying attention to Nicholas's conversation. He was visibly irritated, gesticulating impatiently. "I already said I want those reports ready by the end of the day." "I don't accept excuses," said Nicholas authoritatively. The assistant quickly left, clearly intimidated. Julia continued cleaning, trying to go unnoticed. Nicholas noticed her presence, and for a moment, his eyes showed disdain. "You're new here, aren't you?" asked Nicholas, without much interest, as he sat at the table. "Yes, sir. I started recently," replied Julia, keeping her head down, feeling the tension in the air. "Work well," said Nicholas, turning his attention back to the documents. Julia took the opportunity to analyze the documents more closely. She noticed that Nicholas always tried to impress his superiors but didn't hesitate to step over his colleagues to achieve his goals. This observation increased her distrust. Later, Julia sat discreetly in a corner of the cafeteria, observing the employees. She saw Nicholas approach a group that included Milena, her daughter. A pang of the heart struck her as she saw him interact with Milena, who seemed at ease. "Milena, your performance has been excellent. Keep it up, and you'll have a promising future here," said Nicholas with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Milena thanked him, and Julia noticed the satisfaction on her daughter's face. "He's trying to manipulate my daughter too," thought Julia, feeling a mix of anger and concern. She knew she needed to act cautiously but was determined to expose Nicholas and protect Milena. That same afternoon, Julia was busy cleaning the meeting room. She moved silently between the chairs and the large wooden table while working, hearing voices coming from the corridor. It was Nicholas talking to a friend. Julia stopped what she was doing and hid behind the door to listen. "Honestly, man, it was easier than I thought. Milena is young and naive, exactly the type that falls for my stories," said Nicholas, laughing. Julia felt a chill down her spine. "I was talking about her daughter. These girls want to believe in the Prince Charming. I just had to be a little charming and show interest in her work. That's how I got close and gained her trust. Now I'm reaping the rewards," replied Nicholas, in a voice full of disdain and arrogance. Julia's heart was pounding, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "How can he do this to my daughter?" she thought, holding back tears as she listened to every word. "And now that Bernardo is gone, do you think you can manipulate the new owner?" asked the friend, curious. "You have no idea what's happening. Meanwhile, I'll keep charming Milena and ensuring everything is under my control," said Nicholas, cautiously with a smile on his face. Julia felt her blood boil with his audacity. She needed to act to protect Milena and expose Nicholas. When Nicholas and his friend left the room, leaving Julia alone with her thoughts, she emerged from hiding and continued cleaning mechanically while her mind raced. "I can't let him continue this. I need to protect my daughter and the company," thought Julia, feeling her determination grow. That night, upon arriving home, Julia met with Lavinia to share her concerns and plan the next steps. They sat in the kitchen, where Julia recounted everything she had discovered. "Lavinia, Nicholas is manipulating Milena at the company. This is unacceptable," said Julia, with a voice filled with anger and sadness. "We can't let Nicholas continue with these plans. We need to gather all possible evidence," replied Lavinia, trying to calm Julia while understanding the gravity of the situation. Julia agreed with Lavinia. She knew she needed to act cautiously to protect Milena and expose Nicholas without putting her at risk. The next day, Julia returned to work with renewed determination. During her cleaning routine, her mind was focused on how to collect evidence against Nicholas. As she passed through the corridors, she saw Milena talking to Nicholas. The mere sight of him looking at her daughter made Julia's heart ache. In the afternoon, Julia found an opportunity to investigate Nicholas more deeply. She entered the archives room and started rummaging through the drawers for incriminating documents. While examining the papers, she discovered several inconsistencies and clear evidence of financial manipulation by Nicholas. "This should be enough to start," murmured Julia to herself, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. She knew she needed to act quickly, determined to save her daughter and the company. Julia continued her work. One afternoon, while cleaning Nicholas's office, she found an envelope marked "Confidential." Her heart raced. She knew it could be dangerous, but her curiosity and determination led her to open the envelope. Inside, she found documents detailing bank transfers and fraudulent agreements. This is exactly what I need, thought Julia, as she photographed the documents with her phone to have a secure copy. Julia knew it was time to tell Milena the truth. She felt a knot in her stomach just thinking about her daughter's reaction, but she knew it was necessary. That night, she decided to go to Milena's apartment. Julia climbed the stairs to Milena's apartment, feeling a mix of nervousness and determination. Reaching the door, she took a deep breath and knocked lightly. Milena opened the door with a smile, but her expression changed when she saw the seriousness on her mother's face. "What's wrong? You look worried," said Milena, inviting Julia to come in. Julia entered, observing the cozy and organized environment, reflecting Milena's responsible character. "Milena, we need to talk." "There's something very important you need to know," replied Julia, sitting on the sofa and inviting Milena to do the same. Julia felt a wave of emotion seeing her daughter so close, aware that she was about to break her trust. "What happened, Mom?" "You're scaring me," said Milena, sitting next to Julia, worried about her serious tone. "Milena, I was disguised as a cleaner at the company. I did this to find out what was really going on and if we could trust them," began Julia, looking into Milena's eyes. The surprise and confusion on her daughter's face were palpable. "Why would you do something like that?" asked Milena, stunned. She could hardly believe what her mother was saying. The fact that Julia had investigated disguised as a cleaner was difficult to process. "I needed to find out the truth without anyone knowing who I was. And what I found out is worse than I imagined. Nicholas is manipulating everyone, including you, Milena. He's embezzling money and using you to achieve his goals," explained Julia, with a voice trembling with emotion. The words hit Milena like a blow, causing a wave of anger and sadness simultaneously. It was a painful truth she had never suspected. "Yes, daughter, I heard him say that he seduced you just to gain advantages in the company. You're involved in fraud and document manipulation." "I have proof," said Julia, firmly holding Milena's hands, trying to convey her sincerity and pain. "How could he do this to me? Why didn't you tell me before?" asked Milena, devastated. Julia explained that she wanted to protect her and be sure before revealing everything. "Now we need to act together to expose Nicholas, protect the company, and our family," said Julia, with tears in her eyes, feeling Milena's pain as if it were her own. "I'm very hurt, Mom, but I'm also angry." "We need to make him pay for this," replied Milena with determination, squeezing Julia's hands in response. The two women embraced, united by the adversity they now faced together. "I won't let him continue this. Count on me to expose him," replied Milena, wiping away her tears. A fire of vengeance burned in her eyes. "Thank you, Milena. I knew I could count on you. I've already gathered a lot of evidence, and with your help, we'll present everything to the board," said Julia, feeling relieved to see that her daughter was willing to fight by her side. "Let's go, Mom. For Grandpa, our family, and all the people Nicholas has harmed," said Milena, holding Julia's hand firmly. The determination in her eyes reflected the pain of betrayal, but also the determination to seek justice. Julia spent the rest of the night with Milena, explaining in detail everything she had discovered and how she planned to expose Nicholas. They discussed each step carefully, ensuring there would be no flaws in the plan. "We need to be very careful. We can't leave any gaps. Nicholas will try to defend himself in every way possible," said Milena, with determination, while reviewing the collected documents. "I know, daughter. I've already reviewed several of these documents. The evidence is solid. He won't have any way out, replied Julia, looking seriously at the pile of papers. Milena channeled her bubbling anger into fierce determination. Julia sighed, feeling the weight of responsibility. She looked at Milena, focused on reviewing the details, and felt a wave of pride for her daughter's strength and resilience. We'll do this for ourselves and for Dad, thought Julia, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. And so, mother and daughter prepared for the confrontation that was to come, united by the desire to seek justice and protect those they loved. The decisive moment arrived. For us, Milena, said Julia, adjusting the folder with the documents. Both were preparing to present the evidence to the board clearly and organized. Julia would start by addressing the financial fraud, followed by Milena, who would highlight Nicholas's personal manipulations. I agree. Let's show not only the financial impact but also how he abused everyone's trust around him, replied Milena, aware of the importance of her personal testimony to convince the board. After hours dedicated to organizing the documents and creating a detailed timeline of the frauds, as well as preparing slides with graphs and data, Julia and Milena felt they were ready. I believe we are prepared. It will be a challenging day, but we are well prepared, affirmed Julia, closing the folder with determination while looking encouragingly at Milena. I'm ready, Mom. Let's seek justice and protect Grandpa's legacy, replied Milena, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. She knew this moment would be crucial for her family and the company's future. The day of the meeting finally arrived. Both woke up early, aware of the responsibility they carried. Julia chose an elegant black suit, while Milena opted for a professional blue dress. Ready, before leaving for the office. Today is the day, Milena. Let's expose the truth and protect Grandpa's legacy, said Julia, trying to hide the nervousness while organizing the documents in the folder. I'm with you, Mom. Let's seek justice, replied Milena, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. She held Julia's hand for a moment, offering support. As they arrived at the company, the atmosphere in the meeting room showed a mix of shock and contained anger. When Milena took the floor, detailing how Nicholas had personally manipulated relationships within the company, exploiting people's trust for his own benefit, she said. He used charm and manipulation to take advantage of people, including me, said Milena firmly, staring directly at Nicholas. His face showed not only surprise but also growing concern with the revelations. The board members listened attentively, absorbing every detail of the accusations and the evidence presented by Julia and Milena. The room's atmosphere was tense, contrasting with the determination of the two women to expose the truth. At the end of the presentations, a heavy silence dominated the room as the board members processed the gravity of the revealed information. Some whispered among themselves, others stared at Nicholas, who was now visibly tense and speechless. Finally, the board's president broke the silence. Nicholas, do you have anything to say in your defense? He asked seriously. Nicholas looked around the room, his expression oscillating between disbelief and despair. There are no excuses for what he did. The evidence is right here before you, affirmed Julia firmly, directing her gaze directly at the board's president. Now it's up to all of us to take the necessary steps to restore this company's integrity. The board's president nodded gravely. We'll need some time to discuss this internally. Julia, Milena, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We'll get back to you soon with a decision. With that, the meeting ended. Julia and Milena left the room feeling a mix of exhaustion and relief, aware that they had taken the crucial first step to protect the company and Bernardo's legacy. Nicholas tried to interrupt, but Julia cut him off. I'm not finished yet, Nicholas. His attempt to justify himself was interrupted as Milena stood up to speak. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Milena, and I would like to share my personal experience with Nicholas. He seduced and manipulated me, making me believe he was looking out for me just to gain advantages in the company. Here are the messages and proof of his intentions," said Milena, projecting text messages and emails that corroborated her words. "These accusations are false. This is a conspiracy against me," shouted Nicholas, abruptly standing up. His voice was desperate, but no one seemed convinced of his innocence. Julia remained calm, confident that the truth was on her side. "All the evidence is here, and you can all verify it. There's no more room for fraud and manipulation in our company," asserted Julia firmly. A tense silence fell over the room, which was broken by the growing murmur of employees. Some began to argue among themselves, divided between supporting Julia and Milena or questioning their integrity. "Julia, this is incredible. I never imagined you would do something like this," commented Bianca, one of the secretaries, visibly impressed. "I agree with you, Bianca. We need leaders we can trust, and Julia has shown she's willing to do whatever it takes to protect the company," added Bento, one of the department employees. However, not everyone was convinced. Raphael, one of the financial analysts, stood up, visibly disturbed. "How can we be sure you're not hiding something else? How can we trust someone who disguised themselves and deceived everyone?" questioned Raphael, with evident distrust. "Transparency and truth are fundamental now. I'm willing to answer all your questions and present all the evidence I've compiled to restore your trust," replied Julia sincerely, feeling the growing tension. Milena decided to intervene. "I know it's difficult for all of you. It was also difficult for me to discover the truth about Nicholas. Believe me, my mother did this to protect the company and so that we all work together to ensure this doesn't happen again," said Milena, trying to convey calm and solidarity. "Milena, I understand your position," intervened Giovanna, an HR employee, reflecting the feelings of many present. "But it's hard not to feel betrayed." The discussion began to intensify, with employees speaking at the same time, defending or questioning Julia and Milena. The atmosphere became even tenser when Nicholas, with a dissimulated smile, decided to intervene. "This is what happens when you can't trust leadership. Julia caused all this with her secrets and manipulations," said Nicholas, trying to turn the situation in his favor. "We can't forget that you betrayed our trust and abused your position. The evidence is clear, and we need to act together to overcome this," asserted Milena, looking firmly at Nicholas. The room exploded in heated discussions, some defending Julia and Milena while others expressed doubts and supported Nicholas. The division among employees was evident, and the tension reached its peak. "Julia, you lied to all of us. How do you expect us to trust you now?" murmured some employees, expressing their discontent with feelings of anger and disappointment. "They don't understand. Julia did what she did to protect the company," defended Bento, trying to calm the situation. Trying to remain calm amid the growing hostility, Raphael responded with an acidic and skeptical tone. "Giovanna, you're right. We need to stay calm and focus on what's best for the company. If we remain divided, we'll only strengthen those who want to see us fail," said Raphael, trying to mediate the situation. "Giovanna, I fully agree. Let's resolve this together and ensure our company emerges stronger from this situation," supported Bento. Observing the scene with satisfaction, Nicholas saw the division among employees and the anger directed at Julia working in his favor. They realize that Julia isn't trustworthy. "She manipulates and lies," murmured Nicholas, with a hidden smile. Julia knew she needed to remain calm and assert her authority. Raising her voice to be heard above the growing tumult, she tried to restore order. "Everyone, please calm down and listen. I am the owner of this company. My responsibility is to protect my father's legacy and ensure this company thrives with integrity. The real cause of the division in our company is Nicholas, not me," said Julia. "I am not," protested Nicholas, trying to interrupt, but Julia was quicker. "Your manipulation and fraud are irrefutable. The evidence is all here. Your actions have harmed the company and everyone working here. You betrayed our trust and put everyone's hard work at risk," said Julia, staring firmly at Nicholas. "This is absurd. Everyone is against me," exclaimed Nicholas, visibly disturbed. The desperation in his voice was evident, but Julia continued undeterred. "You stole from the company, manipulated documents, and abused the personal trust of many here. The truth is clear. Admitting your crimes is the least you can do now," said Julia, with a firm and authoritative voice. A heavy silence fell over the room, loaded with expectation. Finally, under unbearable pressure, Nicholas caved, but not without showing his true character. "Okay, I admit it. I did it," confessed Nicholas, desperation etched on his face. "What motives could justify your actions?" asked Julia, with a cynical smile, her expression hardening. "Dark motives? I can cite, for example, greed, power, control. I don't need noble excuses. And your daughter. She was easy to manipulate. So many compliments, so many promises, and she fell for it like an idiot," said Nicholas, with disdain. "Milena is a fool to me. It was like a game. She believed every one of my words. It was pathetic." Shock and disgust flooded the room. Milena was paralyzed. Tears began to stream down her face. Everyone was stunned and furious. Julia stepped forward. "You are a monster, Nicholas. You manipulated my daughter and stole from the company without any remorse. How dare you talk about her like that?" said Julia, her voice trembling with anger and indignation. "And this is the business world, Julia. If you don't know how to play, then you lose," said Nicholas, with a malicious smile. "All these naive employees thinking they are safe. They mean nothing to me." The once divided employees were now united in their disgust for Nicholas. Murmurs of indignation spread throughout the room. "You're despicable," shouted Bianca, the secretary, standing up. "How could you do this to us?" added Raphael, one of the financial analysts, visibly disturbed. Bento, one of the managers, also spoke up. "You don't deserve to be in this company, Nicholas. Your greed and lack of character shame us," said Bento, pointing at him. Julia felt a wave of support from the employees and knew she needed to act immediately. "Nicholas, you are fired immediately and will be prosecuted for your actions. There is no place for someone like you in this company," affirmed Julia, with no doubt in her voice. The security guards, previously alerted, entered the room and escorted Nicholas out. He tried to resist, but his struggle was futile. The cynical smile finally disappeared from his face, replaced by an expression of defeat. The tension in the room began to subside, replaced by a sense of relief and justice. Julia looked at Milena, who was being comforted by some colleagues. "I'm so sorry for all this, Milena. I promise we'll get through this together," said Julia, feeling Milena's sadness and anger. Milena nodded, wiping away her tears and trying to regain her composure. "We'll keep working together to ensure a better future for our company." I thank you all for your support and understanding, concluded Julia, ending the meeting with a determined look. As the employees left the room, still processing the events and reflecting on the next step, they knew the path would be difficult, but they were prepared to face the challenges and protect Bernardo's legacy. The company's environment, still tense, began to show signs of recovery. With Nicholas's departure and the truth finally exposed, Julia and Milena felt a new sense of purpose and determination. Under their renewed leadership, the company began to prosper, guiding everyone with firmness and compassion. Bernardo's legacy was secured, and mother and daughter found new strength in their unity, ready to build a bright and promising future for everyone. If you enjoyed this story, leave your like and comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep receiving more videos like this. Thank you.